Yesterday was a big day for Death Stranding, and anybody who's been looking forward to that game, anybody who's wanted more information on the game, anybody who especially was looking for a release date on the game, I think it caught a lot of people off guard. And anybody who watched my video yesterday of me talking about Death Stranding knows how excited I am for this game and how happy I was to get the news of it actually being Sony's big holiday exclusive title that will be launching before the end of this year. It's releasing November, which is a little bit surprising because Sony doesn't, as far as I know, do they usually release games in November? I feel like they don't. I feel like this is kind of a little bit different for them. But either way, I'm very excited for this. But one of the other really big, highly anticipated PS4 exclusive titles that we haven't heard anything about. Sony and Naughty Dog have been completely silent on it. The Last of Us Part 2. This is a game that a lot of us are eagerly awaiting any new information. And I do have some information today, and it might disappoint some people, but I think at this point, considering what we learned yesterday about Death Stranding being this year's holiday, big PS4 exclusive title, it shouldn't really come as a surprise at this point. But what I'm talking about is, it seems that The Last of Us Part 2 has actually been internally delayed to early 2020. And that actually wasn't supposed to be the case, and it seems like it was kind of an 11th hour decision on Sony's part. At least that's kind of what it seems like to me. Where this information comes from is Jason Schreier of Kotaku, and anybody who knows him, he is probably the most well-known insider, I guess we could say, within the games industry, because his track record is just phenomenal. So whenever he's bringing out any type of information, you can bet it's going to be correct, it's going to be accurate. He's not known to bring out information that's false or not true, or that doesn't end up being true. And what he posted, this actually came out during the same time yesterday when we were getting the leaks of Death Stranding's November 8th release date of this year, which did turn out to be true. But this is what he had to say. Looks like Death Stranding is about to get announced for a November release. The Last of Us 2 was also planned for fall 2019, but I actually just heard it got bumped to early 2020, possibly February. Either way, wild final year for PS4. So yeah, even though it was short, he dropped a significant piece of information here, saying that The Last of Us 2 got bumped because it seems that Naughty Dog is going to need more time than they thought to really finish up and polish this game and get it to exactly where they want it to be. And I'm perfectly fine with this. Honestly, it's interesting to hear him say early 2020 and even say maybe February. Like maybe that's the month he heard. Maybe that's the month, wherever he got this information from, clearly from an inside source at Sony, that's the month they told him that they're shooting for. That would be interesting, because if you think about it, we get Death Stranding November, and then it'll be early November, so we have November, December, January, and then if it releases in February, that's two of PS4's biggest exclusive titles releasing within 4 months of one another, and that would be absolutely huge. I do think it would be enough breathing room. I think it wouldn't surprise me if we end up seeing The Last of Us actually be bumped out a little bit further, maybe to March or even April. It does seem like it could be like a spring 2020 game. I don't know. To me, it just seems like it could be that kind of title. Maybe 4 months wouldn't be enough breathing room. It's hard to say. But one thing I do know for sure is that this is a game that, even though it is getting moved to 2020, and even though I know there are going to be some people inevitably who are disappointed by this news, I wouldn't be disappointed, because you know what? The more time that Naughty Dog gets with this game, the better. I've seen some people saying how it's shocking to them how Naughty Dog has had so much more time to work on this game, seemingly, than Kojima Productions has had to work on Death Stranding. But there's a few things I feel like you got to keep in mind here. Well, first of all, we do need to understand that Kojima Productions and Hideo Kojima himself, he's an absolute pro within the industry. He has probably a process that is very unique to him and his team, and something people need to understand is that when he did create his own studio, he brought most of his team with him that worked with him on the Metal Gear Solid series, from Konami over to his new team at Kojima Productions. And so right off the bat, they already kind of know how they work together. You know what I mean? They already have that synergy, I guess you could say. And it's not just that. It's the fact that Kojima most likely already had the vision of whatever this game is, Death Stranding, whatever it's going to be, in his head for a very, very long time. And so, some of the biggest roadblocks, as you can see with the recent God of War documentary, Raising Kratos, some of the biggest roadblocks that these development teams actually end up facing, believe it or not, is in the vision and the execution of that vision and how things can change. And even just the slightest change in the story, or the direction the game is supposed to be going in, it can have a huge residual effect on how much more time it's actually going to take them to, get it done the way it needs to be done. A lot of things have to be undone and then redone. And when it comes to The Last of Us Part 2, to me, it seems like the bar really is so high. Not to say that the bar isn't high for Hideo Kojima and his team, because of course it is. But again, it's a new IP, and with Kojima, I feel like he gets a little bit of leeway because we see the situation he's walking out of. Nobody's going to be really hard on him because they know that he's at a point in his gaming career where he doesn't have to make games anymore. He's just doing it because he just enjoys doing it. He has a passion for it. And I think people are just overall excited to see what this new project from him is going to be versus with The Last of Us. We see what The Last of Us is. We see the pedestal it sits on and the recognition it gets and how high the bar is set for a studio like Naughty Dog to try to actually clear that bar and raise it higher. It's going to be a very difficult thing to do, and it doesn't surprise me that Naughty Dog feels that they really need to take their time on this, because put yourself in their shoes. When you see the type of recognition and the type of praise that a game like The Last of Us has gotten, and a lot of people consider it just perfection. There's a lot of people, believe it or not, who believe there shouldn't be a sequel to this game because they're afraid the sequel is just going to kind of tarnish the name. Like, the first one's just so perfect, just leave it the way it is. There's no reason to continue it, at least when it comes to Joel and Ellie's story. Put yourself in their shoes. Do you really would you really feel, super confident that I'm going to do this? I can easily make the second one better. I don't know. Maybe there's some people who are that confident. Maybe Naughty Dog is that confident. I'm sure they are to an extent, but there's no denying that there's nothing wrong with them taking as long as they need to make sure this game comes together the way it needs to come together, because the last thing I promise you that any of us want to see, and I've also seen some people expressing this concern when it comes to Death Stranding because they were very surprised that it is coming out this year, is a rushed game. Now, I do not think that Naughty Dog or Kojima Productions as studios would ever be willing to, or I guess I should say they wouldn't willingly push out a rushed game. And Sony is the type of publisher, at least it seems to me, that they absolutely will not try to push a developer to put out a game if it's really just not ready. I'm sure that it's the situation where the developer says to them, we're ready. We feel as though we're ready. The game's maybe not 110%. Like, of course, there's going to be games that have some bugs and have some issues. I think it's honestly a little bit unrealistic to expect a game to be absolutely perfect at launch. Not making an excuse here. I'm not saying it's justifiable when games launch broken, but there's a very big difference, in my opinion, between a game that launches, has a few little bugs here, minor hiccups that can easily be ironed out within the first month, because there's a lot more people playing it, so therefore there's a lot more people figuring things out that these QA testers couldn't really figure out. The difference between that and a game launching broken. Sorry to get a little bit off topic here, but all I'm really trying to get at with this video, and the whole thing I'm trying to say here, is that if you're somebody who feels a little bit disappointed that The Last of Us Part 2 is seemingly going to end up being a 2020 game, don't be, because you know what, we're already halfway through 2019. We have Death Stranding to look forward to, and even if you're somebody who's not looking forward to Death Stranding, the wait shouldn't be too long, and I have a good feeling we're going to get some significant information regarding The Last of Us 2 within, maybe the coming months. I would expect it relatively soon. I think that Naughty Dog is probably eager to share more on this game, and I think Sony is as well, but obviously they have to make sure they give Death Stranding breathing room now. They want the spotlight to be on that game, the marketing is going to be on that game, and so it will be extremely interesting to see exactly when The Last of Us Part 2 launches, because if it does launch in February of 2020, it'll be interesting to see how they choose to market that, when they choose to announce it. Maybe a big PSX, 2019 blowout. That would be the perfect timing, because that would be after a significant amount of time since Death Stranding launched. I don't know. What I do know is that this is some pretty intense news, I guess, or intense information that I guess maybe to some people it's surprising, to others I don't think it is. Honestly, once I started hearing the rumor that, or the leak, I guess we should say, that Death Stranding was going to be a November 8th, 2019 title, I kind of knew, like, okay, well, that certainly means The Last of Us 2 is going to be Sony's big 2020 game. And, there's a lot of people saying that they're happy for this. There's a lot of people saying that they're glad because they want these games to be spaced out, and they want The Last of Us 2 to be the absolute best it could be, or can be. And I'm right there for that as well. I 100% agree with that. But that's going to do it for the video, guys. I wanted to bring this information to you. I wanted to talk about it for a little bit and kind of go over why I'm okay with this, the reasonings for this. There was no exact reason given. I'm sure it just comes down to they want to have more time to polish the game, to make sure it's just absolutely as close to perfection as it can be by the time it launches. Because if Naughty Dog has any intentions of surpassing what they did with The Last of Us with their sequel here, they're going to need that time, and they're going to need that, every extra month they can get to polish this game up. They're gonna need it, and I think they're gonna put it to good use. But anyway, yeah, that does it for the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Are you surprised to hear that The Last of Us 2 has suffered an internal delay? Are you disappointed, or are you actually happy because it means they're going to have more time to make the game the best it can be? We'll be interested to see what you guys have to say. Be sure to leave the video a like if you did enjoy it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.